Ram didn't blame her one bit. Ram said to Mother KK, all this time, I thought you treated me and thought of me as your son, just as I think of you as my mother. But today, Mata, I realized you don't think of me as your son. And at this time, Mother KK is thinking, okay, she's about to get the source. She's about to get it. And Ram said to KK, for something so insignificant like a kingdom, and you want and wanting Bharat to be the king, why didn't you just approach me yourself? Why did you have to go via the king? Why did you have to waste your boons? You could have just come and asked me, and I would have been more than happy to give the kingdom. I'd have been more than happy to do whatever you wish. And Mother KK was, in one sense, startled. But because her desire was so materialistic, because her desire had taken over her intelligence, she lost all memory. Pranashati, she totally fell into the material pool and was very cold-hearted. She still wanted Ram to go. But Ram displayed how we should accept our fate. And Maharaj Parikshit, as a devotee, has followed in those footsteps and shown how we should accept our fate. Even if we're full of opulence, we've got all facilities for enjoyment. If the will of the Lord one day, from nowhere, changes the direction of our life, can we accept the fate? And Lord Ram accepted and is teaching how we can accept our fate. And Maharaj Parikshit has done this very honorably and gracefully. Maharaj Parikshit, he was, in one sense, we can see that, okay, a small mistake leads to such big catastrophe. And we may have experienced this. A small mistake can lead to massive catastrophe. But there's a bigger picture. And on Saturday night, we were on Harinam, and it's a small mistake. And it could have led, luckily it didn't lead, it could have led to the biggest catastrophe of my life. We were on Harinam and had my two daughters with me. So my 4-year-old, I'm holding her hand, and my 7-year-old, she's a bit bigger, and she had her friends. So she was in the Harinam, and we had stopped in the middle of Leicester Square, and she was dancing around, and it was all fine. I kept looking, and she was there, and it was all good. And obviously I wasn't looking at her at every second, but I kept glancing, and she was there. She had a bright green t-shirt. So I kept glancing, she was fine. But at some point, the Harinam at that point, rather from being still, was started to move on to the next, towards Chinatown, towards the next destination. So as the Harinam started to move, I was also starting to move at the back, and I didn't see my daughter. Her and her friend, they weren't there. Two of them were like, oh my God, where are they? Where are they? So I speak to the other devotee who's the father of the other friend, and I approach him. I said, where are the girls? And because normally if they're not with me, they'd be somewhere around him. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, huh? You don't know? I don't know. So then he ran to the front of the Harinam, and I was right at the back thinking, okay, if they're coming, if they're somewhere around and they're coming, where are they? And he ran to the front. So he runs to the front of the Harinam. I'm kind of hanging around right at the back, and now the whole Harinam procession has moved on, and I'm kind of still hanging around at the back. There's a few devotees just sort of lingering behind. So I'm just hoping that my daughter and her friend are there. This is a few minutes, and a few minutes like this is just, you can just imagine. Then my friend comes back, and I look at his face like this, and he's like a really cool, calm, collected devotee. When I saw his face, I knew there's something wrong. He's like, they're not there. I'm like, well, they're not here. And he's like, well, they're not there. And then it's like, what do we do? What do we do? And he didn't have his phone, and he's like, okay, I've got this phone. So okay, fine. So he's like, okay, I'm going to run. He goes, I'm going to run to the front again, and you just sort of wait here. And at this point, I'm panicking, and he's obviously a little panicked. So he went to the front, and I'm now walking through Leicester Square. There's no devotees now; they've all gone. But I'm just looking around. Where are they? And at this point, I was thinking, the smallest mistake, I probably took my eyes off her for maybe a minute or two, could have led to the biggest catastrophe. I started thinking all sorts. If you watch the news and you think about people kidnapping little girls and all, my mind was going everywhere, here, there, and everywhere. Anyway, luckily, then the devotee phoned me and he found the girls right at the front. What they had done is, in fact, go right in front of the Harinam, like ahead of the singers and ahead of the other dancers who were ahead, and they were just messing around. And then they came back, but in that time, but luckily we found them. But in those minutes, I was thinking the smallest mistake is leading to such a massive catastrophe. And the thoughts in my mind like were, okay, I took a picture of her on the train, I'll have to show this to the police, and it was all going crazy in my mind. But we can see actually in the material world, this could have happened. She could have gone missing. Someone could have taken her. And these things can happen, and these things do happen. We see it in the news and we think it won't happen to us. And on that day, I realized this could happen to me. Like, oh my God. So the smallest mistake can lead to the biggest catastrophes. Biggest catastrophes. And I think the Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagwan ki jai, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Gornitai ki jai. So the biggest catastrophes can take place from the smallest mistakes. So, and Srila Prabhupada also describes that any small mistake in spiritual life is like bloodshed. It's like the spiritual life is like the razor's edge. Any small mistake, any small error, and it can cause bloodshed. So we have to be very vigilant in our spiritual life. Are we offending devotees? Am I being true to myself? Am I pretending to be someone I'm not? Because all these things will lead to disaster. All these things can lead to a disaster. Parikshit knew the higher thing, the higher purpose. Lord Ram knew that actually what's going on here is the will of destiny. He knew. I mean, Mother K.K. loved Ram so much. She loved him more than Bharat. She was totally besotted by how much she loved Ram. And Ram explained this to Lakshman, because Lakshman was going nuts. I'm going to kill the king and I'm going to do this. He was just going berserk. What, this KK? You know, Lakshman, first he wanted to blame King Dashrath, then he wanted to blame KK. He was just like, and Ram explained that her love for us is like the flow of the Ganga. And Lakshman's like, exactly, I want to understand, how did the Ganga dry up overnight? And Lord Ram understood that the love cannot just dry up overnight. He understood that the will of the Lord is now taking place. Something higher is happening. It's not conceivable by what we see. What we're seeing is not conceivable. It's not fair. It doesn't look right. But the will of the Lord always takes precedence. So can we see that Krishna is arranging something for us? Can we take shelter of Krishna the way Maharaj Parikshit did? Greater than the world's power, it's a very nice saying I heard. Greater than the world's power to hurt is Krishna's power to heal. Greater than the world's power to hurt us is Krishna's power to heal. So Krishna's power to heal is much stronger than how anything can hurt us. Prabhupada was asked, what is the best prayer? And the best prayer, Prabhupada says, is, Krishna, please give me the strength to serve you. Please give me the strength to serve you. Because what we want to do is serve Krishna. We're in the Hare Krishna movement. We chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We chant the holy name every day. And chanting the holy name every day, when we first come to Krishna consciousness, then we ask, what does it mean? Oh my Lord, please engage me in your devotional service. So we're asking Krishna all day, engage me in your devotional service. But sometimes we don't have the strength to serve him. We don't have the strength because the world gives us so much dukkalayam. The world gives us the misery. The world gives us our karma. The world gives us the source from lifetimes and lifetimes of what we may have done in the material world. And we may not have the strength, but Krishna can give us that strength. Krishna can give us the strength that we can serve him. And we can ask Krishna, please give me the strength so that I can serve you and accept your will. And if we can accept Krishna's will, we can serve him through the situation that we're in. Like Maharaj Parikshit, he could serve Krishna. He went and heard the Bhagavatam. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Shmanam. How do we serve Krishna? Chanting, hearing, remembering, and so on. So he went to hear about Krishna and he perfected that. So serving Krishna with strength can come when we ask Krishna for the strength. When we beg Krishna, give me the strength to serve you. I want to serve you. I desire to serve you. Please give me the strength to serve you. And then we can accept the will of Krishna because we carry on trying to serve. The best example is Srila Prabhupada. When he was in his final days in 1977, it was touch and go. At some moments he looked very sick and very unwell, and then at some moments he started to look a bit better, and he was willing to try and stay. And the disciples were begging him, Prabhupada, please stay. Prabhupada, please stay. And Prabhupada wasn't eating, he wasn't drinking. But because the devotees were begging so much, he said, all right, okay, he can make this decision. And the devotees got excited. Prabhupada asked for some juice, Prabhupada asked for some strawberries, and Prabhupada's now eating, Prabhupada's now drinking, and the devotees are getting excited that, okay, Prabhupada's going to stay. And Prabhupada was willing to stay. But at the same time, after again a couple of weeks, when his body started to go down again, Prabhupada accepted that the will of the Lord is different. There were all these plans. I mean, at the beginning of 1978, the Juhu temple was going to open. After that, Kirtanananda Maharaj was organizing for the New Vrindavan Palace opening. And they were looking like, Prabhupada, you can come here, and then Prabhupada, you can come here and begin your preaching again. And that's the direction it was going to go. But Prabhupada accepted the will of the Lord. That if the will of the Lord is different, the will of the Lord is different. And either way, I'm going to be with Krishna. Whether I'm with Krishna now, whether I'm with Krishna here, or whether I'm with Krishna there, I'm going to be with Krishna. So whatever is important to us, we should turn to Krishna. Whatever is distressing us, we should turn to Krishna. Sometimes as devotees, we think to ourselves that actually this is a material problem I'm having. This is material. And because it's material, I'm not going to approach Krishna, because we hear so much that we shouldn't ask to go back to Godhead. We shouldn't have material desires. So when I have material desires, or if I do desire to go back to Godhead, I'm not going to ask Krishna, because I'm meant to be Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatat Bhakti Rahe Tuki Tvai. That life after life, my dear Lord, all I want is your causeless devotional service. But we may not actually be there. We may not be at that point of wanting to come back life after life. We may be actually just, I want to get out of this material world and I want to go to the spiritual world. I want to go there. Every step is a dance, every word is a song. I want to go there. I want to go there. And Krishna, this material world is miserable. It is distressing, and I don't want to be here. And you know what, Krishna? I haven't got any money. I need a job. I need it. But sometimes we get shy that I can't ask Krishna. But Krishna says that when Krishna is describing the different types of devotees that approach him, the Artho, Jigyasu, Arthati, and Jnana Cha Bharata, the one in misery, the one in distress, the one seeking wealth, the one who's inquisitive, and the one who's in knowledge. Krishna describes all of them as Udara. Krishna describes all of them as magnanimous. So even the devotee who is distressed and approaches Krishna, Krishna thinks of him as Udara, magnanimous. The devotee who is seeking wealth, but he approaches Krishna, Krishna describes him as Udara. He's magnanimous. So why we can approach Krishna. Because by approaching Krishna from where we are at, we are being true to ourselves. We're being authentic. That actually, Krishna, you know what? I really need a job. Or Krishna, actually, I want to get married. Or Krishna, I really want a child. Krishna, whatever it is. But the prayer that Prabhupada always made was, Krishna, if you so desire, if you so desire, I want this. I'm being open with you, my Lord. This is where I'm at. This is what I want, if you so desire. And then we also have the faith and the acceptance. If Krishna does desire and it's good for me, he'll give it to me. And if Krishna doesn't, he doesn't. And that's also good for me. But we should be open and honest with Krishna about where we are, who we are, and where we're at. Because we can't become pure devotees unless we become devotees. So we can just learn how to become devotees, and devotee means connect with Krishna. Bhakti yoga means devotional service. We serve Krishna, we connect with Krishna, and through this connection and through this relationship, the relationship deepens. And as the relationship deepens, we'll naturally want less material things and want more of the spiritual connection and relationship with him. But Krishna describes them as magnanimous. Why? How is that possible? How can they be magnanimous? Well, think about a child. When a child wants something from the parent, and the child asks the parent, Papa, can I have this? And I, as a father, when my daughter, yeah, you ask me, of course, you can have it. This is just for a little child. Even when children are older, let's say my age, and I approach my mom or my dad, Dad, I'm struggling financially, can you help me? Dad, can you babysit my children? Even though I'm not asking for something out of love for them, and I'm asking for something for me, my parent still feels he's come to me. My child has come to me and he's asking me, yes, how much do you need? Yeah, I can babysit. I can. Let's have this relationship. So Krishna describes Ato Jigyashu Arthati and Jnana Cha Pratashabhata. Whether we are seeking wealth, we're distressed, we're inquisitive, or we're in full knowledge, Krishna is thirsty, Krishna is hungry for a connection and a relationship with us. So when wrong comes to us, just like Maharaj Parikshit, we can also think of ourselves just like King Parikshit as very fortunate. We're so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada gave us Krishna. And because Srila Prabhupada gave us Krishna, he taught us how to worship Krishna. He taught us how to leave this world in Krishna consciousness. With this great fortune, we can approach Krishna, we can connect with Krishna, and rather than focusing on the wrongdoer, we can focus on the ultimate doer, who is our sweet Lord Krishna. Thank you very much. It's time now to end. And if there's any questions, comments, or corrections, please feel free. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Kanchanamcha Prabhu. That was beautiful. Very nice points, especially with the focus, where we should direct our focus not to the wrongdoer, but to the ultimate doer. Surely we can take that away and try to apply that in our lives. So we have quite some questions in the chat. And first question came from Sankitan Priya Prabhu. So I'll just read it to you. Hare Krishna, dear Kanchanapcha Prabhu, Dhanva Pranams. Thank you very much for a very nice class. It reminded me of your amazing Gita Life course. A quick question about how these personalities used to verbally curse in the previous ages. Similarly, in the Kali Yuga, when certain actions are committed against devotees or Krishna conscious practitioners or us, are verbal or in the mind curses. Do they have equal effect? What impediments do they have in our life, especially our devotional life? Thank you.
Thank you, Sankirtan Priyapu. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you. So do these curses that are in the mind and that are verbal, do they have equal effect in Kali Yuga? It's very important that we don't curse even within the mind. It's really, really important that we don't curse even within the mind. We can remember that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Vishwarup took sannyas, he took sannyas and he left home. And Mother Sachi was very upset that her son has left home. Really, really upset that her son has left home. And Mother Sachi, even without verbally offending anyone, she, in her mind, had a feeling that because Vishwarup went to Advaita Acharya's house and was hearing from Advaita Acharya, she just had this niggling kind of negative feeling, not even negative feeling, but just this thing like Advaita Acharya's house, and that's where Vishwarup went. And because of that, Vishwarup took sannyas. And Lord Chaitanya made sure that Mother Sachi took the dust of the lotus feet of Advaita Acharya, even though that was in the mind. Because even if a curse or an offense or anything starts in the mind, once it's in the mind, unless we check it there, the next step is naturally going to be something verbal. Even if it's not verbal, it'll be some sort of passive aggression, ignoring someone or being arrogant or vain, but it will take the next step once it gets to the mind. So it's very important that in the mind, this is checked. I remember being in the pantry many years ago. I don't know how, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And one devotee was in the pantry. And I don't know, I can't remember exactly who it was. But I remember in my mind, I was thinking, oh God, this devotee, man. I was just having some negative thoughts and feelings. And it was just, my mind was going, oh God. I was just like, and then the devotee, he had left the pantry and then he came back in the pantry. Hey, Haribol, Prabhu, Haribol, and the way very fake. And what was amazing is that Shruti Dharma Prabhu, he could read minds. And he just started talking about, he said something like, isn't it funny how sometimes we're thinking one thing about a devotee, and then when the devotee comes, we say, hey, Haribol. And then I kind of realized that actually, when something is in the mind, it can become very obvious that it will be transferred to the other person. Whether we say something or don't say something, that negativity, that energy can get transferred. So yeah, we should try and check it in the mind, just like what Lord Chaitanya did. He made sure that Mother Sachi took the dust from Advaita Acharya's lotus feet. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. Hare Krishna.
Very nice, thank you, Guru. Let's go on to a question sent in by Abhi. Sometimes it's hard not to focus on the bad things when we feel deeply hurt by someone or something that happened. What practical things can we do to help focus on the ultimate doer and not just the wrongdoer, and how to develop this vyasayatmika determination?
Thank you, Prabhu. So how to not focus on the wrongdoer, focus on the ultimate doer, and have this resolute determination. So yeah, it's very important that we do this naturally, and we do this in a wholesome way. So we should process what's actually happening to us. So if we are feeling wronged, we should actually process that and accept that, okay, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's happened, this is why I feel that it's not happening, this is not good. And writing is a really good way, because once we write, and through this process of writing, we're telling Krishna that actually this is serious. I'm taking this process seriously. I want to focus on you, the ultimate doer. Right now, the wrongdoer has overtaken my mind. But by writing about it, we're really trying to process what's happening. And it's a very wonderful world when we start writing, because actually our thoughts become really processed, really refined, and actually very concentrated on what it is that we're actually feeling wronged about. What is it? I mean, is it what they said? Is it how I feel about what they said? Is it how they said it? And these kind of things we need to actually understand for ourselves and accept for ourselves. And once we can accept these things and try and understand if there's a link, am I overreacting to this wrongdoer? Because sometimes what happens when we write and we process and we journal, we can actually realize and understand that maybe, just maybe, I'm overreacting. And the reason I'm overreacting is maybe because I am sensitive. Maybe I am sensitive to when someone is acting in an unjust way, or someone says this, or someone does that. And it may be connected to how we feel from a younger age. It may be how we've just been feeling since coming into Krishna consciousness. But once we understand what the real root of the issue is, then we can take that to the ultimate doer. We can take that to Krishna. And ultimately, we can take this to Krishna through the Vaishnavas. So we can seek counsel from senior devotees in the mood of wanting to resolve the pain in our heart so that we can focus on Krishna. Not in the mood of trying to criticize the devotee that has hurt us. If we do it in the mood of wanting to resolve the pain in the heart to focus on Krishna and loving Krishna, then the Vaishnava, the devotee, will respond and reciprocate accordingly. And that reciprocation and that response and that advice is how Krishna wants us to deal with the situation. So process it, understand what the problem is for us personally, approach the devotees, and ultimately take it to Krishna. And through this shelter of Krishna, and staying away from enjoyment, like it says in the verse, Bhogeshwarya, staying away from enjoyment and attachment, this resolute determination for Krishna consciousness can take place.
Nice, thank you. Important point, yeah. Journaling, power of introspection.
Yes.
There was one question sent in by Roman Prabhu, and he asks, how can we make sure that we accept the things that happen in the way that Krishna wants us to understand them and not misinterpret things like the way we would like it?
How do we understand the way things happen, the way Krishna wants them to happen, and not misinterpret them? Yeah. Thank you, Roman Prabhu. It's very easy, isn't it? Sometimes things can happen and we can take it whichever way we want. We can take things this way, take things that way. And especially if we're clouded with a desire. If we're clouded with a desire, then when anything happens, it's like if you're in the ashram and you suddenly have a desire, a big desire to leave the ashram and get married or something. And then one devotee or one authority says something to us. And then we're like, oh, because this devotee said this to me, I'm being unfairly treated and I'm going to go. And this is what Krishna wants for me. But what's happened actually isn't what the devotee said to us. Actually, it's because I've been clouded by a desire. I've been overcome by some desire, whatever desire that is. So it's really important, I think, and we can go back to what we just said to the answer to the previous question. It's really important we're really authentic and we're really true to ourselves. Because if we can't be true to ourselves, it's like, we hear that we need to love ourselves. And if we can't love ourselves, how can we love others? It's very similar to being true. If we're living with integrity and we're authentic and we are true to ourselves, we should really be clear to ourselves what my desires are, what I'm doing right now, where I want to go. These are really important things, because once we can be true to ourselves and our own desires, then when things come to us in the material world, then we can understand what my desires are, what this thing is, and what's the higher goal. And to see things in a Krishna conscious way, if we have the Gyan Chakshus, if we have the knowledge of scripture, if we see things with the eyes of the Shastra, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, if we see things through the eyes of scripture, through the eyes of the sadhus, through the guidance of the Guru, then we can understand how Krishna wants us to take it. If we avoid the Shastra, or take the Shastra the way we want, if we avoid the Guru, avoid the Vaishnavas, because we know what they say to us isn't what we want, then what will happen? We'll end up learning the hard way, the school of hard knocks. We'll learn, but it'll just be a longer route and it'll be a more painful route. Sometimes, as it's described in the Gita, the mode of goodness is poison now, nectar at the end. So sometimes it might be better to take the poison now and get the nectar at the end, rather than trying to chase the nectar now and it leading to poison. So if we do things wholesomely, be true to ourselves, take guidance of the Vaishnavas, be in line with the Shastra, then we'll understand what Krishna wants. Then we'll understand how Krishna wants us to serve him. And praying to Krishna, Krishna, please give me the strength. Please give me the strength to serve you. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
We have one last question, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
It's coming from Roberto Prabhu, and he asks, Hare Krishna, dear Prabhu, thank you for the class and points. You mentioned we need to be vigilant in our spiritual life, not to make a single mistake. Mistakes will always be there, so how to be careful but not fearful in our spiritual life?
Yeah, thank you, Roberto Prabhu. Yeah, I mean, we can be careful, but we are going to make mistakes because that's a natural defect of being here. So mistakes are going to happen, but we don't blame ourselves too much. Mistakes will happen. We then take responsibility. What did Maharaj Parikshit do? He made a mistake, but he didn't keep blaming himself. Oh, why did I put the garland on him? Why did I go to that place? Why didn't I just drink the water? If I drank the water, I wouldn't have been so thirsty, and then I wouldn't have done that. If we keep blaming ourselves and we keep tormenting ourselves and we wallow in self-pity, seeking the sympathy of others, we're not going to advance in Krishna consciousness because we're seeking what we're meant to be giving. We're seeking the attention that we're meant to be giving to Krishna. So yeah, I'm going to make mistakes. Mistakes are going to be there. I'm going to make them. I'm going to be very vigilant. I'm going to try my best, but there are going to be mistakes. But when the mistakes happen, take responsibility and accept the will of the Lord. Like what Maharaj Parikshit did. He took responsibility, he accepted the will of the Lord. The reaction might not come today, it might come in 10 years' time, but when it comes, understand that something is going on, which is the will of the Lord, because I've done something. So the mistakes will happen, definitely, but it's how we react to them. And if we wallow in self-pity, if we keep blaming ourselves, we wallow in self-pity, we're just succumbing to the mode of ignorance. And from the mode of ignorance, how can we approach Krishna? The mode of passion would be, oh, let me just forget about it. Keep busy, and just forget that I did this. Keep busy. Mode of goodness, take responsibility, accept the will of the Lord. From mode of goodness, we can approach Krishna. Mistakes will happen, but just don't try and commit them. They're going to happen, but try and be as vigilant as possible. Do the best we can. Maharaj Parikshit did the best he could when it came to mistakes. He still made one. It's okay. It will happen. But what do we do afterwards? What do we do afterwards? Don't blame others. Don't blame ourselves. Turn to the ultimate doer, not the wrongdoer. Even if the wrongdoer is ourselves, focus on Krishna.
Jai Prabhu, thank you very much. I think in this way we had very nice answers to all these questions, and we can see that by the inquisitiveness of the devotees that they were very satisfied and inspired by your class. So again, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for nice class.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a wonderful class, Kanchanabja Prabhu.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.